Moneyball on the TV right now. So,
Oh wow, nice.
so I guess it kind of maybe fits into the discussion of what's could possibly potentially be happening. Sorry,
Right.
Garrett, I don't want to steal your thunder as far as opening up the
What
show, but go ahead.
what could potentially be happening, I think, is an accurate description, metaphor, subheadline, subheader, whatever the hell you all want to call it, to describe this recording tonight. Make City Make Spence. Time of recording this as I click the Xbox TV, 7:37 on Thursday, November the 7th, and in the year 2024. Because shit's wild, man.
Mm.
For
Yeah.
I don't know various reasons.
It's a weird time to be an American.
Weird time to be a citizen of the world. And
I don't know shit about that. I've always been just an American.
America. Oh, fuck yeah, right now. Fuck no. But we are in. I was just saying, Saturday leaving Keyworth. Adam and I talked about this, both at the stadium and then after Adam's painful experience in the Taco Bell drive-thru on the way home. That Saturday, we didn't plan that Saturday was to be the last match Detroit City's 2024 campaign.
Yeah.
When we last gathered last week, when I still had a gnarly fucking mustache.
We were innocent then and young. We thought our democracy was going to continue beyond Tuesday, and we thought our season was going to continue beyond Saturday, and neither one of those things happened. So, yeah,
so
superific. Let's get into it.
So, I suppose the one thing to deal with feeling pain and all that is to address it, talk about the pain. Sean Spence, Avi lead off. First off, I know you were dealing with pain.
Yeah.
During the match on Saturday, legit fever.
Yeah.
Your household. Yeah. So first off, has that subsided?
I kind of bounced. I was better by Sunday evening. Sarah's still miserable. She went to work today, and I, kind of limped through it, I think, and came home and is having a hot toddy. We gave her a COVID test and it was negative. But now she's having she's not tasting anything, so it probably is COVID.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, that's what's going on here. I'm fine. I've been making pizzas all week.
The losing your taste thing was always so weird. Like, cause remember they talked about that, like when COVID first came about. It's like, oh yeah, you lose your taste. And I was like, I don't get how that happens, because you lose your taste with, you could lose your taste without like having like a stuffy nose. Because obviously, if like a stuffy nose, sinus infection, you could like lose your sense of taste, which I get. But even when I had COVID earlier on in that sense, I remember like coughing and shit like that, and then all of a sudden, like a week after that, I'm like, holy shit, I can't taste anything. And
Well,
it's
like
real.
it changes the experience. Like you realize that. Like, I mean, if you're not culturally Chinese, I guess you probably are thinking mostly about the flavors of what you're eating and not the texture of it.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get that COVID switch turning off, like now all you're experiencing is the texture of it. I think a lot of time for a lot of people, they're kind of grossed out. They're like, oh, this is shit I don't usually pay attention to. Like, oh, this is making it bad for me. I think it makes it easier not to want food.
Yeah.
When you're like, this is going to be just like disappointing in every dimension. Maybe I'll just not eat.
That was the last thing. That was the last thing for me to like get back. Like even when I was feeling like a lot better and everything, I was fine. Like, it took me like 3 months, 4 months to get like my sense of
Wow.
taste back, which sucked.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
sucked.
I've never lost my sense of taste. My daughter did. One of my daughters, when she got COVID, she lost her sense of taste completely. And now Sarah, I got home from running to the store and she's like, I just ate some chocolate and it didn't taste like anything, and I'm really
Oh
worried.
no.
And so then I made her a hot toddy and she's like, like I can't taste the lemon or the whiskey. Like I can feel the honey, like it's kind of got that thickness. I can feel it coating my throat, but I'm like, oh,
I
oh,
hope it's not it.
oh, dang.
Which means if she gets it, then you're gonna get
Right, right.
it.
Yeah, this is a small apartment. We can't really quarantine here, like
Yeah.
And
Um,
so it fits in with all that discussion, unfortunately, fits in with the constant theme here tonight. Two things.
Nice
One,
segue, Garrett.
yeah.
pain. Second of all, fuck.
Yeah.
And as I had to like clear my throat to get that out. So 6 p.m. Saturday,
Mhm.
Eastern, for those not checking this out in Eastern time. Getting ready to head down to Keyworth, and looking at the starting 11, and I'm looking to see the roster sheet. Lauren Cassieda in the starting lineup. Cool. Dig that. Elijah, not in the starting 11, not on the bench. I don't know if I've brought this on air before, gents. We've talked about it.
Mhm.
And Adam, I'm not sure if Tunnel Talk's out yet, but I know we talked about it in Tunnel Talk on Monday. A couple months ago, we had learned that Elijah had been dealing with a sports hernia.
Right.
Playing through. We actually talked on air about this last month. But to the point where he played through that, didn't miss any matches. Didn't make the starting lineup, didn't make the bench. And when you account, as I know you, Adam might be in there, it was a cold night at Cooper State.
Yeah.
So a little bit different than you are maybe someone into the plan. And Rowdy's being pretty much same game plan. We knew what to expect. And much to also our surprise,
Right.
because Nate Steinwasser in goal. As if people listened to this podcast and told us and did this with the sole intention, like, fuck you guys, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I will say Nate Steinwasser did everything that he could in his power and then some in this match. And this match that did not just go 90 minutes. It did not go just 120 minutes. Unfortunately, it went to that thing that we fucking dread at Keyworth Stadium. Adam, you said it best on Monday. You felt like the best part of the match, Detroit City's match on Saturday, was the 15 or so minutes while it was that we played before it was 0-0. Before Tampa Bay took the lead and City equalized in the second half. Sean, I know you and I talked a little bit briefly on Saturday before post match on there. Fill me in. What was your takeaway on all this and how it eventually wound up the way that it wound up?
Well, I mean, I think losing Lai for this match was a big deal. We did not succeed in creating problems for them when they had the ball very often. Like, we were nuisances, but I think that when you switch Lauren Kissidou for Lai, you are taking, you obviously have a guy who has got a better technique and is going to put shots on goal more often, but you're also losing a lot of sturdiness and tackling, and Laurent will pitch in, but the fact is that the size matters in the grinder of the midfield, and he often gets sort of bullied, and Tampa Bay is a very experienced team. They're a team that really, if they lost this match, they're getting blown up, right? Like, pretty sure. So these guys are fighting to stay together. And Leo Fernandez dropped into the midfield a lot once we established what we were trying to do and made things hard for us. We didn't really adjust to that very well. And I said last week that I kind of kept saying that the first goal is going to be crucial. I feel like if we get the first goal, we probably win this 3-0. Because they're going to have to start pressing. They're going to have to start trying to they're going to have to put more men forward, and we're going to catch them. But they got the goal, and we didn't look like scoring very often after that. This is the thing that I was worried about coming into this, is that if they get the goal and they can sit back and defend, we struggle to do anything against that. And once again, we did. So, ball don't lie. And it was disappointing to lose in penalties, although we've certainly done that a few times at Keyworth. But I don't think it was unjust. I think that it has become clear, to kind of pivot toward the next topic of conversation, or to signpost it. It is pretty clear that the front office, like Danny and Trev, given what we've learned about the players that seem to be heading out the door, the primary one we're talking about is Maxey here. This team is built around Maxey. Like, it was built for Maxey to get a lot out of him. And the fact that he's apparently going to sign for Rhode Island, or has already signed for Rhode Island. And we're just waiting. Rhode Island's still playing, so they're not going to announce anything. But it will probably be announced as soon as they're not playing. And that, to me, says you're blowing it up. That you're like, okay, I'm guessing that they are looking at our roster and saying, okay, we've stood pat too much, and we're not making the progress we want to make. We want to be a dominant team in this league, not a pretty solid team that occasionally plays great. And they've decided that Maxey is not the guy. Or it's possible Maxey wanted to move on. But I was shocked, honestly, to hear that he was going. Since then, we've had a couple players kind of do the Instagram, like we don't. James Murphy, was it yesterday? Posted a thing that might be just kind of like, hey, the off season's here, can't see you later, but it really sounded like they're not offering me a deal and I'm hitting the road, guys.
He has an option for next year, so in his case, they'd be just declining the option.
Right. Right. And then that brings us to Lai, who I don't think even has an option for this year. I think his contract is up, which means we're completely overhauling the midfield. Now, I've also heard that there's quote a couple signed deals already on someone's desk, right? So apparently we've already signed some guys, and I can't get any answers about who those guys are. I'm going to guess there's some midfielders in there because we don't have a midfield at this point. If those guys all walk now, we could be misinterpreting James. We could be. It could be that Lai is going to come back, and they're just his agent is not happy with the numbers, and they're going to keep going back and forth, and eventually he'll get signed. So it's not like they're all absolutely gone, but doesn't look good. And Michael Bryant, apparently his mom was in the stands, kind of telling folks that they're at Loggerheads over the contract. Basically, he has a number that he wants. the club is like, LOL, no. Here's what we're offering, and he's gotten offers from at least 2 other clubs that are the number he wants. But he wants to stay here, but he's trying to, like, he's it's a negotiation. He's now, my guess is that at some point in the last few days, the fact that Michael's mom was talking about this has reached the front office, which I think greatly diminishes his likelihood of returning. Sadly.
One place you don't want to do that is Detroit City Football Club with sporting director.
Yeah, talk out of turn, mislead the front office in any way, and they will dog walk you out of here.
Sean, Trevor's a professional. He's a professional guy. It's in any respect. That's not something that you do.
The thing is, I can understand. Like, I'm sure Michael's like, it's my mom, of course she knows what's going on with me, and I just trusted her not to tell everyone. But
when it's also being said, though, not just by that, but allusions being made in the handshake line, as apparently reported to people as well by the man himself.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah, Michael's a Southern California guy. I would not be surprised to see him move back to the West Coast. But his work in the community has been great here. His work on the field has been pretty great. This is really the end of the NISA All-Stars era, is what we're seeing here. Maxey, it was the heart of that team, has been the heart of this team for 4 years, really, in my view. Like, there's other guys that are good, but Maxey is the center emotionally of the team, and a lot of the play goes through him. So cutting him loose, and apparently maybe Michael, and Nate is retiring. That leaves Stevie and Devin, and Connor, Reese, right? Yeah, as the remaining NISA dudes. So about half of them, walking the plank this off season. At this point, all we have to share is anxiety. This is the thing that I sometimes wonder about. I wonder whether City plans how they're going to reveal these things in a way that anticipates the emotional needs of the supporters. You know what I mean? Because it feels very much like we've gotten all the bad news and we're just sitting here waiting for anything positive. And it's just a matter of doing the announcements. Here's the guys. Everything will turn around once we start seeing some more talent and have can look at highlight reels for the new dudes and figure out what we're trying to do for next year. That'll be super exciting. Because we really have been status quo ante since we entered the USL. We've been very much a settled team that adds a couple of pieces every year. And I think this is probably going to be an off season where that's not the case. So it's, exciting / terrifying. And because of the other things going on in the world, the terrifying part is, assuming a larger and larger percentage of the thought there. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a classic first week after the season podcast where we're full of despair. We don't know. We don't have any good news. We don't have any plans. There's nothing like the women play in a couple months, I guess. We'll start
December
with that.
Apparently is when MASL starts, but it won't be not Keyword because it's gonna be fucking winter.
At the clubhouse,
Fieldhouse Clubhouse, January 4th per the MASL website. But we've already seen changes on that website multiple times. So
yeah, it's very much Midwest Premier League kind of league where they're pulling it together like at the last minute. Like probably clubs that are the league commissioner is calling them and saying, "Listen, I really need you to pay this. Like I can't keep you on the website if you haven't paid for the league fees. Come on." Like that's that kind of shit is going on right now, and hopefully they'll I'm sure we're going to have some matches, but yeah, I wouldn't write any dates down in your planner if you're a supporter until like they're announcing we're going to play tomorrow. Like, okay, that's going to happen. A mooted match that might happen in the middle of December, I'm dubious. We'll see. But I'm interested to see how this goes. But I don't have enough information to be super hopeful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to me, if this was a football manager game that I was playing, and somebody handed me this, like, here you go. Like I would think that if you're kind of dumping your whole midfield, and gonna go again, that to me, like that would only make sense if your payroll budget has gone up and you know that you can afford better players than you have right now. Maybe Maxi's asking for crazy money. Okay, but then why do you get rid? Why is James walking? Why hasn't Lie been re-signed? Like it looks to me like they're going, okay, we need better midfielders. Like they're going to be more expensive, and we've got the money now, so we're going to, everyone will be fine once they see the new guys play. So, I'm hoping that's the case, and it's not just like, us once again being kind of skint and having to see what guys are kind of dropping out of the championship or what dudes are excelling in League One, and that's our entire recruitment pool. I hope that's not the case.
So I want to get your thoughts on some projections then. So we already know those that are essentially returning next year right now.
Right. Guys that are under contract now.
Carlos Saldana.
Yep.
Stephen Carroll, Devin Almumensa, Reese Williams, Alex Villanueva.
Yep.
I believe Jesse El Cedeno, or is Jesse El Cedeno an option here?
I don't remember Jesse L at all. I don't remember his contract situation. I'm pretty sure Daniel Espeleta is done. Vic Becerra's loan is over. Didn't work out.
Salim or loan deals are done. We know Casiedo's going to check you.
Yeah, Casiedo's not going to come back. He's going back to Czechia. So
Dominic Gasso, that's another one who was back at
Kiev. Yeah. Dom comes back from loan. No idea, how he did really.
I asked him if he got acclimated back to Detroit weather after being in Alabama.
Right. Okay, so you were asking me for a projection.
So those are we know that are going to be back. Now let's go into the option players, club option players. So Ben, James, Connor, Elvis. I'm trying to remember. I know Juice gave some details. I'm trying to remember who else was.
Yeah.
Ben, yeah, I think Ben's back. Ben, I would definitely.
Ben, I mean, if they're fucking stupid if they don't ask Ben back at this point. Like the dude is, it's finally come good. We're gonna cut him loose. Like, come on. Like, like he looks like a real striker now.
The dude went up almost 50% in goal total, and that's not even playing the full season up top.
Well, like he passes the eye test now. He looks threatening. He had one really good shot that was, wasn't placed well, but he, kind of out of nothing, against Tampa Bay, just, ripped one from 20 yards and it was, it was like, oh, like that was he just sort of decided like, fuck it, we ball, and it was, he looks like a striker now. He looks like, oh, okay. It's not like, okay, if there's a center back marshalling him at all, then the threat is over. um, which is kind of how I felt last year. Like if he could somehow conspire to be alone for a moment, he could finish. But otherwise, not so much. But honestly, I think it's just, he spent like 2.5 years injured, and it's taken him that long to kind of get his rhythm back and like get back to, feeling like he's ready to go.
So the other options, we said Ben, James, Connor, Elvis, Daniel Espeleta, Josiel Cedeno, and Ryan Williams. Sounds like Ryan Williams is homesick.
Yeah, that's what I'm understanding.
So he's gone.
Yeah, he's, Ryan really came on, and I would love to see him back. But if he's struggling with missing family, like that's not going to go away.
He's got a small child too, doesn't he?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not paying the kind of money where a dude's going to like rehome his family from the UK here. Like that's super expensive. So, and like it's like his wife couldn't work. Like, she'd come here and not have a card, like have to just be a stay-at-home mom. And, that's not really super attractive for a lot of women. So, I don't blame him for wanting to go home. I wish he didn't, but, I wish Watts' ass didn't want to go home.
Ali Coot.
Yeah, Ali Coot. So, our hit rate on the guys from the UK being happy here is not real great. If I'm like looking back, like, they like the idea, they like Keyworth, but I think that and a lot of them do like Detroit. But the thing that I'm worried about a little bit is that I heard quite a bit toward the end of the season that Danny has a different kind of managerial style, right? And we talked about this a little bit. I don't think on the show, but with each other. And it's to me, it looks like it's kind of Italian. He's like the Mister, right? And he's so that Trev is a very different, like kind of very English model where he's very consistent and like kind of emphasizes being calm and kind and sort of like kind of Tampa, like all the negative feelings need to just sort of pass out of your body and deal with like, and Danny's more like remote. And I think a lot of the players are having a hard time with it, having a hard time with the transition from a guy who really, goes out of his way to make sure you understand that you are valuable to him, and a guy who kind of doesn't communicate and is sort of imperious about like, what he communicates his, like the idea of most of that kind of managerial style is that you communicate to the players through playing time. That's where they learn how you feel about them and how you feel about their work. And you don't get in their ear and tell them every little thing they need to do. They need to be self-motivated to figure out how a way they can fit inside the team and kind of stake their claim to a spot in the lineup.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Quick question regarding that. What you've heard, is that more so players who have been here, who have experienced, both sides of things, the Trevor approach and then the Danny approach, or are these both sets of players who
little both.
okay.
Little both, yeah. One guy, and some of this I'm getting secondhand, so I'm going to kind of be cautious.
Sure.
Like, I'm not going to quote people, but one guy basically said something like, he fell out of the lineup like kind of got benched, and felt like Danny like wouldn't make eye contact with him, like um, and what do you do about that? Like your boss is acting weird. Well, I mean, I've been in that situation at work, plenty of times. Boss is acting weird. Like, okay, well, it's hard to feel real settled and like confident when it feels like you're being shunned. And it seems to me that that kind of managerial style um, is very much leaning on kind of negative emotions to steer people the way you want. Like you're creating fear and uncertainty and challenging the players to attack that by becoming greater players. Like, okay, I'm going to deal with my insecurity by just being so goddamn good that the Mister can't possibly overlook me.
Was
And
that kind of what happened this year, though, Sean?
Yeah, which we can say when you look at the year by year comparison, and even some of the players last year to this year. In some cases, it looked like it actually was fucking working.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's a reason people do this. I tend to like, I think that, so in this model, the manager is providing just motivation and like but the actual coaching, like he doesn't do the coaching. That's beneath him. Like he'll mention things, but mostly his job is to sit and observe and just sort of owlishly collect ideas, and then he shares them with his coaches who disseminate them. So I think in terms of the players improving, I think Danny is providing the motivation there, but through this sort of dark tetrad type motivation shit. And but the assistants are the ones who are coaching them up and are like helping them think. The thing that I saw down the stretch is that we played almost no feckless football. That I've talked about that before, how I just hate like when you just kind of, it doesn't seem like your brain is all the way on, like, okay, you got to be extraordinarily astute while the game is going. And you can't let your concentration falter. And we really did that down the stretch. Just the counters were we had runners on the counters, and when there were runners, the guy on the flank with the ball looked for them. It wasn't like one guy against three, maybe something miraculous will happen. The they were thinking along with the game and thinking ahead of it sometimes. That really helped somebody like Connor, who I think he became very effective down the stretch because he really focused on, first of all, his technique is a little better. Like his first touch seems to be a little cleaner. But he really focused on the things he does well. And seemed to have an awareness of the things he doesn't do well. Like, so he wasn't trying and failing to take on a double team on the dribble. Like he's figured out like, okay, that's just not my shit. I don't do that. Like, and so the lack of doing that is a positive. And then, like player by player, you can go through each player and say, okay, well, Stevie came in really great shape this year, and they seem like they really kind of they tinkered with his positioning a little bit, where he's more a pure cover back, where he's keeping the play in front of him and making sure he doesn't get beat over the top. And that's a little adjustment that made a big difference for him. Michael is a little less like crazy and swashbuckling with the ball. He's making better decisions with the ball, and so on. Like there's
someone that was one of those players that lost his spot, didn't make the 18 at the home match versus Birmingham. There was uncertainty, but then he came back from that a much better player throughout the season, scoring in the very next game he was in.
Yeah.
So it's like some of these players maybe of the old guard that played under Trevor that came to Danny. when you take away, and maybe some of them before were constant week in, week out players under Trevor, that the minute they lose that, certainty, it does something to you. When you're on edge a little bit, when you're on, you can't just rely on what you have. You have to, either go hard or try something new, all these things, while also being like, not overdoing shit also too. And I think it's that blend. This is a hard, painful question I'm going to ask. When I look at another player in the, because I feel like, yeah, you got to take Ben. I would take Connor as well, especially how he finished the year. Is Elvis Amo damaged goods?
I mean, I think you decline that option. I'm thinking of bringing back a player evaluation thing I used to do with Hot Time when I was covering the Fire, which is doing marry, fuck, kill with the players. And marry is, you want to continue, you want to sign them to a long deal. Fuck is like, we'll pick up their option and make them work for it. And then kill is just go, you're out, go. And I think that, you're going to have to say kill on this one. Like, it's just his age, the injury, the lack of production down the stretch, the lack of, his inability to win that rollback. I don't think he's on the kind of money that a backup striker makes in this league. So my guess is, we're going to cut him loose, which sucks because, he was so exciting at the beginning of the season and such a complete forward, the kind of complete forward we've never really had, really can do it all, play with his back to the goal, can dribble, combines well, creates space, understands, the attacking game. Really, a fantastic player.
And that whole connection too, Sean, that we had with Ali, Maxi, and Elvis to start the season, how formidable that seemed. I mean, it was
too.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be completely gone.
Yeah.
Next year. So
yeah, those guys were cooking in that early season, the 5-game win streak to open the season. And there was that stretch for Maxi where we went 14 games without scoring, and his play kind of flattened. And I think maybe it was during that period that they decided, like, okay, we got to move on. Like, this is not, we can't build the offense around him because, I just think his skill set is not ideal for that position. Like, he looked so much more comfortable once we switched him back to like a free roaming 8 who is helping like marshal the buildup. He looked so much more comfortable than he did, like, trying to play as like a classic South American 10 and receive the ball and turn and like make decisions. And like, there's so many ingredients there that have to be incredible for that to be viable. And, I don't feel like his on the ball skill is sufficient to play that role. There's just, at this level, with the kind of marshaling you're going to get and the way guys can tackle you, you need to be a fucking miracle worker to hold the ball in zone 14. And that's just not Maxi's game. Like, he likes the game in front of him, and he's got great sense of timing and a sense of space. I wish he was still going to be here. Like, I am
I think, Adam, you said it best. You said it in our circles, and if you don't mind me, I'm going to quote you exactly word for word.
Oh shit!
You said that you would have.
And I was like, "What did I say?"
Wait, is this for my written stuff or is this?
No, this is from our in our circles.
Okay.
Something you texted him.
Would have loved to live in a world this season that didn't see Elvis get hurt against North Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did say that.
Yeah, it is difficult to to overcome major injuries to the expensive striker you bought in the offseason. Like, ooh, that's bad. Like,
same who lost games last year due to an injury at Hartford.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, given his injury history and his age, you know, he was in great shape. That's the thing. Like, it's not like you could say, "Oh, look, you're going to have to be fitter when you come back." Like, dude, he was super fit. His body, he's just,
he was ready to go.
His body is a little fragile now. Like, and it happens to everybody. So like, time's undefeated, man. And yeah, I would. The difficult thing is that there's not a lot of striking talent in the USA. So unless we're bringing in, somebody that's completely off our. I mean, I think what's more likely is to bring in like someone who is on the border of an MLS side, and wants to, but is not getting any playing time and wants to ball out and try to move. That to me is where I would look. Because the thing is, like, bringing people in from overseas or from international players in is just always fraught. Like, we've seen it. The homesickness, the different. It's a different environment. Frankly, our facilities are shit compared to other professional sides. And that's a problem in recruitment. Guys come here and go, like, your weight room is kind of, a back room at the facility. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's clearly a room that we just put some weights in, and it's recruiting guys is like
it was good for Nisa, but not
right. I mean, it was, it's like, it's honest. It's honest. Like, we are working on a real economy, and every other team is working on millionaires buying stuff, so that creates an entirely different dynamic there. Generally, if you're just getting bankrolled by somebody, they're going to say, okay, well, we need a weight room. Like, well, what's that going to cost? Like, they drop $400,000 on the weight room, and it's like, it looks like a college football facility. That's
it's like going to
right. It's lots of really shiny machines and like freshly painted room and with lots of like stuff about the club or whatever on the walls.
It's like going to Schembechler Hall in Ann Arbor to see Michigan. Yeah.
Right. And what we have is like if you had a weight room in your basement, but you had like enough weights for like 10 dudes to work out. That's what it looks like, So
you ever see dodgeball? You ever see dodgeball?
Yeah. Yeah. Dodgeball? Oh yeah.
It's like Globo Gym and Average Joe's.
Exactly. Yeah, we are Average Joes.
We are Average Joes.
Yeah. Although
a little bit better finances.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that movie. Suck failure, freaks.
Dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no throwing wrenches at people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that does affect us in recruiting, but those are all problems with an expiration date now. Because
true, very true.
We're going to build that stadium, and it's going to have a lot of that shit in it, and then it's all going to be shiny and new.
Hey, Sean, how have you? I mean, because we're talking about players overseas and kind of the facilities and shit like that. Have you heard anything about how Ben has responded to it? Because he's still here. I mean, he hasn't gotten homesick or anything like that, and it seems like he's started to flourish this year. So
yeah,
you would seem like everything's going pretty good with him.
Yeah, I think that he's kind of like a Maxi in that he was kind of at the end of his rope. Like, well, maybe this just isn't for me, and and maybe I'm maybe I have to have that look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not a footballer, and do something else. And Trev picked him up and really stuck with him through an insane stretch of non-productivity. So I think he like that created some loyalty in him. And that is what I'm a little afraid of losing with the new vibe, which is very like kind of cutthroat, and because that is the way football is. It's cutthroat.
Sean, can I ask you something too?
Sure.
Because I actually wrote something today and I put it out there, and
Great. Check it out on the Majors website.
it goes along. I mean, it touches on everything that you just mentioned earlier on at the top of the show. And it talks about and in some sense it talks about the turnover, the potential turnover, and the potential need for that turnover heading into next season. Because when you go and you look at it, um, our average goal output this year, I think it was like 1.3 goals
Right.
per game, which was obviously up from last season. I think last season we're at like a 0.9.
Yeah, less than a goal
But
a game.
it met where we were our first season in USL Championship, again at 1.3. And this is something that I guess I was asking myself, I was asking other supporters, and something I'm going to ask you too, because I value your opinion. Standing pat and kind of going about things. You mentioned something about the status quo,
Mhm.
which you're gonna be you yourself are going to be so much better with words than I am. um and I wish I would have used that in my piece itself, but if we would have went status quo with all of this, are we going to end up getting any better?
Yeah.
Or is this the end of the line when it comes to this team? Is this as good as this team is going to be? Because I'm under the impression that it is. I
Yeah.
mean, we've
No.
had we've had a large enough sample size to come to that conclusion. And as much as I love Mix, and I'd love for them to bring back Maxi, and I know how supporters get attached to these guys, and I love it, because this isn't a team like the Red Wings, the Lions, or the Pistons, where guys come and go. Supporters don't build that relationship with them, and it's gonna suck seeing these guys go. But it seems like it may be necessary. It seems like it may be time for something like this to happen.
Right. Well, I mean, this is we keep sort of getting further and further away from our roots, right? Where like we were this kind of
Yeah.
spunky little neighborhood club, and then we were kind of semi-pro, in Members Cup, and then we became fully professional, sort of, but it was NISA, and we were up against a bunch of teams that couldn't like couldn't avoid shitting themselves half the time.
Yeah.
So we absolutely dog walked that league over and over again. And then we came into USL and had a core of, like, we kind of have avoided the churn of that most professional sides go through, because we brought in the NISA guys and we're like, that's our spine. And we've kind of, added and subtracted. And I think that's absolutely right. I think that, what this represents is Trevor and Danny saying, okay, we're at this level, and we want to be a dominant team, not just a competitive team. And these players aren't going to get it done. Like, there's, at our very best, we're still struggling to keep the ball against Louisville. So we got to do something. Sorry, go ahead.
And I mentioned that too. We're not going up against the likes of, uh, you know, uh, the LA Force or the Maryland Bobcats anymore. We're going up against teams like Blue City in Charleston in the East, where if we're going to compete with that, we're
Yeah.
not going to be able to compete with them dollar for dollar. We've got to find another formula to try to compete with them if we're not going to be able to match the funds.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I don't know whether we've got more payroll than we had previously.
mhm.
It was kind of a surmise of mine, like where it's like, all right, well, this would make sense if we had a bunch more money. Um, but I think it's also possible that they're just like, look, we've got to it's fish or cut bait. We got to cut bait. Like we are not getting what we need out of this. We, and a lot of it is just offense, right?
Yeah.
We have been a fantastic defensive team, for years.
And look at the
And
guys we re-signed too. I
right,
mean,
and
look at the guys who are coming back.
right, we don't seem to have any. We're not worried about the defenders.
Yeah.
Michael, we're willing to re-sign him. He just wants more money. And it's entirely, the thing is that I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, we can do better than Michael," and I mean, maybe, yeah. The thing is, what Michael is like a 6'3" guy who can play right back, and then slide into that 3 and be credible as a central defender and also be a threat on set pieces.
Also,
That's
mid in the 10 and has played 6 other roles for this club in other
right.
years.
Right. He's done a lot of things, but I mean, in this alignment, he is the right back. And like, yeah, maybe you can get somebody that's like a more conventional wing back, or but it's going to be pretty tough to find somebody that checks all the same boxes as Michael. That's better than Michael, to me. Now, maybe you don't think. Maybe they're thinking, oh, we don't need, like, it's nice to have him on set pieces, but that's not. He did. How many goals did he score? Like 2, right? Like, so I mean, it's fine. Eh, so maybe they're looking for a more conventional wing back, and if so, we can absolutely get somebody better than Michael. Like, he was the second best wing back on the roster. If we were trying to play conventional wing backs, Matt Sheldon would have played all the time. And he wound up playing like as a winger basically later in the season because he wasn't getting any minutes because Michael really established himself there. And we wanted to go to the 3, which Matt is not great at. Yeah, I everything. We've gotten the bad news and we don't have the good news yet. So it's going to be, I just need to see what midfielders they bring in and to decide to kind of figure out what's going on, or maybe at some point someone will answer some questions from me. But we'll know by the end of January what the plan was. And I have a feeling that we're going to sign it. We're going to sign a couple of guys that are pretty exciting in this offseason. It'll be interesting to see how much we do. We are cutting a lot of guys loose. So how many guys we're going to straight up sign, and how many of those roster spots? Like, I assume like the Victor, Jesse L, Danny Espeleta, those roster spots are going to be trialists, free transfers, backup
That's
players.
the thing. That's the thing with the Cedeno one, because I'm so like,
I could see him staying. I think he's he's got that mystical ability to be left-footed.
Ben, Connor, Jesse, I'll stand, and then everyone else would be going right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I mean, Jesse, honestly, I don't know if his future is as an attacker. I think they might be trying to see if he can play wing back. So, that we'll see what they do. Especially if we stay with the 3-5-2, then that wing back doesn't have to be much of a back. He can just kind of be a winger who does some extra work defensively. So,
covered a bit on options. Now we go out of contract. Talked already about Maxey and Michael.
Yeah.
We have a bad feeling about Lai. We've sort of talked on Matt Sheldon, and then there's Brett Levi's and Steve Matthews. I'll bluntly say this. I think both Brett Levi's and Steve Matthews.
I would be shocked if we resigned either of them. like I love Yazid, and I think he's going to be a great coach. I think we might see him on the sidelines for City at some point. Like I think he's a good enough youth coach that he could, take a step to be like.
I know. I'm with you. I have like this sentimental thing with Izzy because Izzy, when
Yeah.
I first started following this team, he was my favorite player.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome.
yeah, he was my favorite player. Watching him, the goal against Atlas, um, the
Such a
goal
great
against,
goal. The way he opened his
yeah,
hips and like, oh, it's like that guy's a striker.
Sparta.
yeah, the goal against, even the goal against to clinch it against the Stars. They clinched the Members Cup against the Stars on the road.
Yep.
Um,
Sean will know this from 2019, based off of our close mutual friends that we have. You know, if there was anybody in that old guard era that I was close with along with me,
Yeah, he I mean, when I worked for City, and our chef quit and I had to start making breakfast and lunch for the team. Yazid was a dude who always, like, I don't know, he's like kind and humble. He
soft spoken.
helps clean up and says thank you a lot and is just like a sweetheart, like a really, really nice guy. And that's not everything, but it's also not nothing. And I just, I don't think he's at this level. If he wants to keep playing, he could probably catch on at a League One team, if he has a good trial. But I think he's more likely just going to, we're going to say, listen, it's not happening, and he'll shift to being a full-time coach. I just hope he stays with us and isn't upset. But I think after this season, the writing's on the wall, right? You've made like 6 appearances.
And he had
That's
injury last year that really affected him.
out
of
yeah,
him.
yeah. It took forever. That was like a meniscus problem in his knee, if I remember, and it just took forever to heal. I know he was frustrated.
Brent Levi's.
I mean, if there was some way to keep him healthy, I would resign him because he is a chance creator. Like he creates chances if he gets minutes. And we don't really have guys that do that reliably. We got a lot of guys who work hard. But Brett has the incision to do the right thing in the moment. But he's hurt all the time, and basically got beat out for the position by Alex just through stint of Alex being always available. Like, there's no ability like availability, right? And that's why Brett's, I'm guessing he's probably going to retire.
I feel like while you were retired, I remember when he scored the winner against Birmingham. Danny would mention in the post game wanted to ask Brett recently to take more of a leadership role. And then if there was a bright spot from that fucking Tulsa game after it lost, there was a group of players doing drills like so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was Brett with them, Brett was leading those drills.
I mean, that's interesting. Yeah.
I would not be surprised. Think about family being Canadian, you got Windsor right across the board. Brett stays on, maybe not playing, but as a involved with the team. Maybe kind of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of it comes down to what the player wants, right? It comes down to what Trev brought him in last year, so he was here when Danny got here. But I think the thing about Danny, I think, is that he's got a good eye for people who can contribute offensively, and so when he sees Brett, he's like, okay, like this guy can do things. Let's get him on the field, and then he's hurt a ton, and he winds up kind of mentoring Alex all season. And yeah, I don't see where the minutes come from for Brett really at this point. Like I can see him sticking around because like he feels good here, his family's here. Um, that's one of those kind of tough ones, right? Like, well, listen, we can't pay you 50 grand to chill and like be the fourth assistant coach. But we have a role for you. Does he want to keep playing? If he does, well, okay. Then you probably maybe a tender an offer that's like all incentives. Like you're making the bare minimum, plus a huge like appearance fee, or a bonus after 1,000 minutes and another bonus after 1,500 minutes or something. Basically you've got to figure out a way not to overpay for all that time he's going to spend rehabbing. So if they can figure that out, then great. But it's really one of those deals that it's probably just going to be cleaner just to say sorry, cut him loose, and move on.
Last one for me.
Who was it? Who else was it? Yeah,
Matt Sheldon.
Matt. Again, I think Matt doesn't need the money from playing. He well, he's got a good YouTube channel. I think he kind of comes from money. And he signed for City and then bought a house and like
Grosse Pointe or something.
Grosse Pointe or Grosse Pointe Farms or something, like, but like, none of the players are, it's not like there's a community of Detroit City players down there. Like, no, that's where the rich people live. And, that's where he bought a house. Like, oh, okay. Well, shit, like your mortgage payment is more than most of the guys on the team are making. So wow, okay.
Is there a chance they bring him in as a part owner?
Yeah.
or as part of when he's not playing, he's helping in the media.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like, it seems like he's bought a house here, so we've got an opportunity to keep working with Matt, and I think he's pretty talented as a like cinematographer. I've watched his YouTube shit; it's pretty good. The edits are clean. He picks like good, unobtrusive music that still makes it feel vibey, and like, I don't know, it's just well put together. And
he's a pro. He's a pro
right.
when it comes to that too. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the thing, there's a minimum, like we can't sign him to a $0 contract. If he's going to be on the roster, then we have to pay him $30,000. Right. That's the minimum. So, but maybe that's the deal, is like we go, okay, well, like if you're healthy and you can play, we'll give you a minimum contract and that'll be great. And, with the understanding that we're going to continue to work together on your media stuff. And like, that's what I would do with it. Like, okay, let's see how much we can get out of you, because we need all the help with media we can get. Like Ryan is great. But he's one dude, and there's always, huh?
You mean Kyle?
Oh, Kyle. Yes, I'm sorry. So many Sheldons. I think that I would like to see Matt stick around. Plus, honestly, I think he's got a little more juice in him than, like, he's way quicker than I realized he was.
I'm very pleasantly surprised.
32-year-old to be.
Right. Well, I mean, like he started playing as a winger because he's like fucking fast. Like, he can't really. He's not gonna beat anybody like with any moves on the dribble. Like, it's very simple, basic stuff. But like, if you come up and press him, he can poke the ball past you, and like he's probably gonna win that foot race. Like, he is quick. which is it's not what you're expecting from the journeyman right back he just signed to be like a backup. Like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. So yeah, a lot of things to say for him as a depth piece.
Was he Did we get him in return for Skaggy?
It was corresponding transaction, if I recall.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It was kind of like it wasn't a trade, but it was kind of like, we'd like to take a whack at this guy if because I think we had Skaga on a 2+1. And
Skaggy was a club option deal. It was a one.
Okay. Oh, he was a 1-1. Okay. So, we had a lot of hope about Skaga, and he just like decided that life is pain, and he was going to embrace the dark side halfway through the year.
He took our route a year early.
Huh?
He took our current route a year early.
Yeah, exactly. He was just anticipating our current mood.
You want to know what the fucked up thing about all this, Sean, is? Adam, you'll know what I'm talking about. So almost 10 months ago, because this year has corresponded with City almost every weekend of this fucking year.
Yeah.
So far. Second women's indoor game. I get downstairs to the field house because I'm chilling the shit out of the clubhouse with my buddies. And Adam's in there doing merch and everything. It's like, yo, like our buddy, someone we know in the community, John Sarge, was like, hey, but I was introduced to somebody named Matt. And I'm like, who's this Matt? It's got to be somebody. So our friend then, Sean Juice Grogan's like, wait, I'll go take a look. So Juice goes upstairs because, Shelton is up there. We're not sure at the time. Adam and I are speculating. And we always remember, like, what are some Detroit City things that we remember going into USL? Our first home game, piss at one of the most miserable fucking conditions ever before Good Friday versus Birmingham Legion, and just absolutely berating the living fuck out of Matt Sheldon.
Yep.
And you know what that came from? It came from Jam going on Sean and Dion's podcast with the three of them, and it was Jam telling us about all the dirt that she has on some of these other USL players coming up, this for the next match, and all of a sudden it was Matt Sheldon is an influencer on on YouTube, and
right. Oh yeah.
If that's something that you want to get on him for, there you go. And lo and behold, Matt Sheldon.
So we're in the moment. I'm like, wait, is it Matt Sheldon? Wait, what?
He was playing for Charleston, right? Not Birmingham.
Yep.
They had it was the Piss Kids.
Yeah, the Piss Kids.
Yeah. This was 3 weeks before that horrible Birmingham Legion rain game.
Okay.
But no, we're like, wait, is it Matt? It's not Matt fucking Sheldon, is it? And then Juice comes down the stairs. Yeah, it's Matt Sheldon. And we're like, what? And then, so I meet a great fucking guy, actually, and on there. And he loved absolutely being torn to shreds that game in 2022, which we find out. But then we find out 3 days later it's a corresponding transaction. It's in Skaggy back to Hartford, which, by the way, Hartford never announced picking up Skaggy.
Yeah, I think they. Yeah, I don't think they even tweeted about it. I think there was some indication that Skaga might be done, and they were like, "Well, give us a chance to try to convince him to stay in football," because he had a very distinct "fuck Detroit" vibe, the second half of last season.
Yeah,
and it turns out that it wasn't really "fuck Detroit"; it was just "fuck football." Like he just was tired of being in the game, I guess, and he's no longer in the game. So I hope he's happy doing whatever the fuck he's doing now. It is hard, I think, sometimes to look at people who have like talent and aren't interested in it. But yeah, you're only interested in whatever you're interested in. There are so many people who are really into football who have zero talent for it. The like actual coordination necessary to kick the ball and run around. Ooh, that's no. But you can still love the game, even if you're completely incapable of playing it. So being able to play it doesn't necessarily correspond with loving it. And it's, it is weird to to watch a guy who you think, if he gave a shit, he could play for 10 years and, rack up a pretty fun, interesting career, but he doesn't give a shit. And
It was Stevie and Maddie, kind of singing his praises from what I can remember when they
yeah, playing
signed
against
him.
him. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they played against him and they were like, he was playing for Loudown and they were like, this guy is a fucking tree. Like we couldn't move him. Like he's just so strong. And, I think Trev was trying to find a back to the goal guy, somebody who they could, skip the press to, which, has been a constant theme. Like that last year brought in Skaga, this year brought in Elvis, probably going to bring in another guy next year. And he kind of didn't see himself that way. He wanted to be like an attacking midfielder.
Yeah. 10.
And but did no work to modify his game to make that viable. Basically, he just was kind of a jerk off. Like, I mean, I don't want to be too mean to the kid, but world of
Immature.
talent, didn't give a shit. He's out of the game now. Like, great. Applause. I mean, it's a thing we see all the time in every sport,
Yeah,
right? Really
absolutely.
kind of guys who have the juice but don't care. So
Matt Sheldon, on the other hand,
yeah,
dig his vibe, a lot faster than I ever thought it took him to be.
I don't remember him being fast when he played us. I wasn't like, oh wow, that guy's really really handling. Who do we have starting out there then? Let's see, Connor probably was our inside inside left, with Pato starting up top.
Pato and Antoine.
Right. Yeah, Antoine's the inside right.
Antoine came on as a sub. I think Billy Forbes started that fucking home game.
Billy Forbes.
Oh my God.
We're getting into name some guys territory.
That's a fucking name drop right there, if there ever was one.
Billy Forbes, who came to us surrounded by a shroud of weirdness because he apparently was a little bit of a creeper, and at one point was getting shit for I don't know,
bases, Phoenix and San Antonio.
Yeah, where he basically kept kind of going back to the islands to avoid scandals, and then coming back.
Sean, you had to write that words about shapes piece to kind of
and be on
everybody to kind of ring everybody in. Like, okay, you guys, let's not get too out of hand with all of this, especially
Right.
I remember the piece. It was a very, very good piece. Like all your stuff is, but I thought it was a piece that was very, very much needed.
On
all
there,
things,
Sport City Sport Radio too.
Yes, all things considered, because I think people had to be very, very careful with how they approached the Billy Forbes situation.
Right. Well,
given the history in this country too, when it comes to.
Well, that was my concern was that we had these kind of vague rumors, and I think if the guy,
but nothing confirmed.
Yeah, if the guy was, Billy Franklin from Schenectady, a white dude, that would we know about him being a slightly creepy? It seems like that those kind of whispers are surround black players.
Yeah.
And it's the latent racism of America that is unavoidable in a lot of ways. And so that was my I was hearing that he is credibly accused, but there's no paperwork, right? So I'm not going to, that was my whole point was look, man, we have we should teach Emmett Till in school, I guess.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying. And so I'm extremely suspicious of reports of a black guy being like a sexual creeper coming out of distinctly racist places in the United States. Like,
especially too when you have a largely white fan base too.
right,
I mean,
right,
there's just some things that you just have to temper back a little
right.
bit with.
Like like if I had, it'd be different if I had any
Verifiable
solid
proof,
information,
yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
verifiable stuff. Um, and the fact
Here's that.
go ahead. Sorry.
Here's that starting lineup that day for Charleston
But hold
Battery.
on 1 second, Garrett. 1 second. And then they loaned him out to that CPL team and he scored that banger too. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck was that with City, man?
So,
Sorry,
aiming
Garrett, go
goal,
ahead.
Lewis, the dynamic, adventurous duo of Lewis and Carroll with Devin Almensa, Reese,
That's a
Maxey,
good
Brad
line.
Dunwell,
Reese Maxey, what?
Reese, Maxey, Dunwell, Declan,
Brad Dunwell.
because Brad didn't get hurt. Brad wasn't hurt yet.
Yep.
Hopino in the 10, and then Billy Forbes and Pato. But I think that with Billy, it was one of those situations that I think it was just, even with, like, this is a hindsight thought. I think even when we made the when you made the awareness that people would hold up, I think by then, because I remember people found out Billy was coming with City because Billy did a fucking Instagram story of bitching about how cold Detroit was, which, to be honest,
yeah.
it was already like bad vibe move, and I think even with that, it was,
that was a pretty decent team though.
Yeah. Well, Billy. The other thing was that he was still playing. I can't remember what island nation he's from.
Tobago.
Is he Trini? I thought he was one of the smaller ones, but
like Turks and Caicos. I was
Turks and Caicos. There we go.
Oh, my bad. He was playing Trini. Okay, that's
right. Right. That was the other thing, is like he could never get in any rhythm because he would get called up to play like beach soccer or a qualifier, or like there's a lot of like island competitions that
to leave Miami too.
Huh?
I don't think he wanted to leave Miami too, because I still remember a couple days after that game I went and saw the Darkness at Majestic, and that's where the bowling alley, I forget the name of it, that's there, and bump into Yazid and I bump into Billy Forbes, and Billy Forbes is wearing a Miami hat while I was a Detroit City player.
I mean, I got Chicago Fire stuff. I don't wear it a lot, but I've got it. There were times like I don't think it's a big deal. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I remember Armando wearing like a Tulsa kit or something like that in some picture that he was in while he was playing for City, and I know Armando loved City, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna
okay, so when I was in a band, it was considered like the height of dumbassery to wear your own merch on stage, right? You just don't do it. You wear some other band, anything else.
Yep.
So I'm not that worried about the hat thing. Like I kind of feel like it's the same thing. Like, yeah, well, I mean, I got City stuff. I play for them. Like, of course. Like, I'm not gonna wear it around all the time. And
that's my job. That's my uniform.
Right. Well, and it's kind of the two ways of looking at it, right? Some players are like, okay, I'm joining a team, I'm joining a club. It's like it's my second family. Like there's a lot of surrogate stuff going on there. And then other guys are very much like, I'm punching the clock. This is my profession. That's it. It's not an emotional commitment for me beyond like wanting to do well and wanting to excel. And it's fine. That's how it is. You kind of need both. If everyone is like loves all the players are just in love with the club, like then they start to kind of suffer the same emotional like to and froing that supporters feel. If everybody loves the club, then when things are going bad, like the despair is way worse. So you need some of those like just cold pros to drag you out of that. Like, because they're not going to falter. They're not going to feel anything. They don't give a shit at some level. Like, okay, well, whatever. I'm here to train. Let's train. So I think like there's wisdom in a multitude of teachers, and there is wisdom in kind of spreading out the kinds of players you have. You don't want everybody the same age. You don't want everybody the same anything. Like you need to kind of you create the melting pot and then you spend the entire preseason trying to get it to up to temp so it melts.
So we've kind of given you an idea of projections, who we think might be back, who we think might not be back. We're just running off of hopes and beliefs and thoughts because, like I said, we're still, as Sean's mentioned, we're waiting to get more details. Who knows when those details are going to pop in?
So what we're saying is we've spent an hour and 20 minutes to tell you, I don't know.
Which for us is actually quicker than what we've done before.
Like, so succinct right now.
I'm going to say something that I do want to add to something I think, Adam, you wrote about today in your piece, and the both of you have mentioned today. And before I do that, it is 2024. Detroit City fans, you've been going to Keyworth anywhere from this season to 12, 13 years. Referees do not decide outcomes of games too much. You know, when you think you're going to say this is the worst officiated match at Keyworth? Oh my God. You know when you're going to say that again? The next match at Keyworth. Chill the fuck out.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I'm thankful that the capos have kind of clamped down on you're the shittiest ref I've ever seen, like 4 times a game. Because goddamn, like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Like, stop reacting to every call against us as if you've been wronged. Like, and just gain that little bit of composure that allows you to go, okay, that probably was a foul. Just once in a while, occasionally, because you lose all credibility. When you just bitch about everything. I think it would work a little better if it was, say, every 4 matches or something, like something particularly egregious, like, okay, get that out. Not just like, a dude made a call against our guys, like, and we're like, fuck you, eat shit, motherfucker, like, okay, but like, that's a person too. He is doing his best, like, bro, like, just wait a minute. Like, you're going to get a chance to do that. Like, the USL refs are not that good. Like, you are going to get a chance to scream at a bad official a couple, 3, 4 times a season, but that's all. It's not every match. It's not 4 times a match. Like, my God. And it, what it does is put forward this vibe that we don't know ball, right? That we're just cosplaying jerk-offs who are there for, it could be a parade or a circus or whatever the fuck. Like, there's some football, okay, but it's just an event and we're all like psyched to be at the event, and that the event is the thing, and we don't really give a shit what it is. I would really like us to evolve to a point where our supporters are reacting to the play on the field a little more, and like group chanting maybe a little less, or like, and it's difficult because the capos are leading it and they're not looking at the field. So I don't know how you square that. I don't know if you get spotters who are like, and this should be do this next. I don't know, but it's something that I've kind of craved for a decade now.
I think the problem is too. Also, we have with love. I'm saying this, people. What I'm saying is not a horrific thing. This is coming from the heart, and I'm saying this from a point of caring, for the most part.
Like the disclaimer there. for the most part. Largely.
We are a passionate supporter base.
Yeah.
Regardless of your affiliation or what what you label yourself as in relation to Detroit City Football Club. Point being is passion, but there's a point where it becomes too much passion, even for those that do know ball that also bitch about refs. Y'all have brains, varying levels of intelligence, but enough logic in there to realize, step back for a minute. Not everything's a personal. Every bet call against is not a personal attack. Fucking this match goes on for 2 hours.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I do think that that the crowd is gradually getting a little more savvy about the game. But like as a person who's kind of been obsessed with football for 30 years, there is still there's a lot of not knowing ball happening in the stands, and sometimes on some of the other media around us, there are people trying to do this thing that we are doing.
Go on.
Who need to serve an apprenticeship of say a decade actually watching football first. I get the strong impression that there are people out here giving opinions who didn't watch soccer until after the pandemic. And it's okay, well, I mean, that's fine. You are where you are, but I struggle listening to opinions from people sometimes. I'm like, ugh, you just don't know ball, dude. What are you talking about? But I don't know. It's one of those complaints you can't really voice very often because you sound like a dickhead. I'm willing to cop to being a kind of a dickhead about this.
However, we are honest dickheads, and everything that can be verified and proven under facts of law. Adam, you haven't chimed in.
Sean, if you didn't like what I wrote, you could have just told me.
Oh no! I'm trying to. I didn't know you wrote it. I just went to the website. I'm trying to
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, I found you. Okay. Big changes probably still needed. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. If it's rewarding for you to try to do media stuff around city, I think that's fine. Do you? But generally, my critique, I guess, I would offer of the people doing this is take a moment and think about what is already out there. And think of it more as what service are you providing than how you need to kind of remove your ego from it a little bit, I think. And it's difficult, right? Because you want to do stuff and you want people to know you or whatever. And so, for example, I kind of stopped doing match reports this year because we had Nolan. And I'm I'm just kind of, I mean, I think my game stories are probably better than what's in a paper just because I'm not restricted at all. I can do what I want.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of just it feels to me like at that level, I'm sort of showing that I can do the game story better. Okay, well, it's not really helping anyone. No one's getting so I'm I've kind of stepped to doing a little more of just sort of, let's look at this last week, let's talk about the vibe or whatever. And it's a process that I'm constantly going through. I'm constantly trying to evaluate where do I fit in this? What do people need? What would be good for city? What would put them in a good light, whatever. And I encourage anyone who's in those spaces around city to do that thinking in the next couple of months. You've got a little time to figure out where you fit, and I'm interested to see people making good decisions. So
It's kind of hard to because it's what you have access to, Sean. I mean, one thing, and what I mean by that is you don't want to speculate too much.
Mm.
Um, and I usually don't like speculation. You want to be truthful in what you're saying. Um, and I know sometimes it is kind of hard for me, maybe not so much for you to kind of get some answers with certain things.
Yeah, yeah, you especially we don't have press conferences,
Exactly.
there's no
Yes,
place
exactly.
where Danny sits down and it's like, okay, you got a time to answer for him to answer your questions. Like you kind of need to build a relationship with them,
Yep.
to where they know that like if they tell you stuff, you're not going to like distort it and make it, because there's ways you can make it sound awful anytime, right?
Sure.
So um like I didn't write about the guys grumbling about Danny's, remoteness during the season because I am a City supporter. I want things to go well for them.
Absolutely.
I don't view myself primarily as a reporter here. I'm not like a newsman. Um, so, when I hear things like that, unless I feel like it's something that strikes to the identity or the future of the club, I'm just like, we'll deal with that later. Like the season's still happening. Um,
Nobody's getting paid for this.
right, right. And
This
I
is
mean,
fun,
I
huh?
am getting paid, by my patrons,
Well,
um,
I mean, you're not. I mean,
but
nobody
I'm
is
yeah, nobody's ordering lobster off the money they're making
exactly.
writing about City. Um, or anyone in the USL. Like, John Morrissey, I think might be making a go of it, but he might have a day job too. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm sure it's, touch and go for him. Like the media situation in America is terrible and doesn't look to be getting better soon. So,
And we got to
um,
think about too what's being covered here. It's lower league soccer in the United States.
right.
This isn't lower league soccer in England. We're not covering, championship in in
Well,
in, in England.
yeah, and the fact that there's no like you can't even approach it like you would, approach Wrexham, let's say. They're in the
Yeah,
third division. But they're up from what do they call it now? It's not the conference
but
anymore.
was that
League,
National League or something like
Yeah,
that?
it used to call it Conference National. It's the
they're in League One, Wrexham.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that they were in the Conference National or whatever it's called
Oh,
now. The Vanarama.
National
Um,
Panorama National League.
right.
Hold on.
They were in that when the two guys bought the club. Um,
Oh, I
and
see. Yeah.
so it's part of a longer story, right? You're covering this, but it's like, okay, this is a it's a road to glory save on Football Manager. They're going to build the club up to a top level club. That's amazing. What a cool story. Well, you don't get those stories in America because we don't have promotion and relegation. What we get is the kind of thing that we've done, where you know if you can get a little notoriety and build a thing where people are showing up, then there are leagues that are like, okay, well, we need teams where people show up. That sounds good. But there's no like pathway where you know start a club, have success, move to a higher level, have success, move to a higher level. Like that's the way it works everywhere else. Here it's like, well, I mean, we're in the championship, and unless a billionaire is calling Sean Mann, this is where we're going to stay five ever. We could win 6 trophies in a row, like just dominate the USL championship like it's never been dominated, and it wouldn't mean shit. Like we're still going to be the best second division team in the country, which for a lot of Americans means we're minor league.
Yep.
And it's too bad.
yeah.
But it is what it is. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I understand why we don't get the kind of coverage that lower league teams get overseas, because, there's the expectation overseas that this is maybe the beginning of a larger story, or part of a larger story. And like it really in the US, the seasons just kind of have a sameness to them. You don't, unless you have a terrible year or a great year, you're just playing until the season's over, and then it's, the next year comes. Like it doesn't change that much. And I think
Yeah.
that we've kind of gotten used to changing leagues every couple of years. I think everybody needs to realize, like unless or until the USL collapses in some way and we're snatched up and handed some little Lord Fauntleroy to be our billionaire, this is where we're going to be. We're not gonna be going to the Club World Cup, or we're not, it's not the level we're at, and there is no pathway to that level for us.
So you're saying we're not going to be playing Club America in the Club World Cup?
Probably not. No.
In Mexico City.
Well, and we like there is a path. There is theoretically a pathway if we win the Open Cup, right? But now MLS is saying, okay, if a championship side wins it, then what? Then we're going to just stick one more of our clubs in there. They're basically just like, nah, we're Bogarting that. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And our U.S. soccer is completely feckless and just does whatever MLS wants. So that's another thing that's apparently never going to change.
And there's no sign of it changing.
Right. I mean, it's a good country to be a billionaire in. For everyone else, it's a little shaky.
Yeah. Right. I was going to say also, too, kind of to echo Adam and Sean's thoughts earlier, people, the reality of all of this, and we have been and it's often messaged, and even in recording things before in our tunnel talk, and you've heard Trevor Jenkins, we are a community club. Yes. We have players that have made it been here for a while. They become endearing to us. We love them as people, off the field, on the field, all that. Honest reality, though, this is a professional club. Professional clubs are businesses. And sometimes businesses and when you need to take the next step, which I think this team is identifying they want to do, or maybe perhaps in Danny D, as you have talked about, even Sean, maybe we build a team more to a Danny Dicchio style and play and thought as teams before us.
Yeah.
Hard decisions need to be made. So my point is, it's important. It's great to feel appreciation. It's great to feel connection. It's great to feel all that too. But oftentimes, it's more often than not that players leave to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean,
it's part of the business.
It's, at the end of the day, we are kind of cheering for laundry, right? That old Seinfeld bit about, like, he doesn't get why sports are like it's a bunch of mercenaries, and all you're really cheering for is the shirt they're wearing. Like, that is kind of true, right? But we don't need to break our ties with these players because they leave and go play somewhere else. Like, they can live on in our memory. Every time they come back, we can, when Rhode Island plays at City next year, I expect everybody to be, like, really happy to see Maxi, right?
For 2 hours during the game, but then being like,
right,
missing.
Right. Like, it's good to see him. I hope this is he has one of the days where he just sucks and doesn't do anything against us. But more likely he's going to approach it like a cup final because he's, wants to show he's thriving. And that'll be interesting. Yeah, you can't be afraid of turnover in professional sports, I think. The teams that really try to keep everybody together usually just wind up stagnating. And I think that's what they're trying to avoid here. I don't think that they're looking at Maxi and going, "You ain't it, son." Because, like, as a player, it seems to me that you really could just sign a 10 over him and have him play in the role that he's played really, really well since he got here, deeper in midfield. And that would be valuable. But if he wants to be the focus of the team, if that's what his he's like, I want to be the bell cow. I want to be the guy that everyone looks to make things happen, to create chances, to create opportunities, to win matches. And we tried that this year, and we're not world dominating offensively. And he really struggled in that role. Like that 14 match scoreless streak was basically him not succeeding as an attacking midfielder, right? And then they moved him back, and it suddenly looked way better, and he scored goals, and so I think that if he wants to be the center of an offense, our guys have tried that this year and it didn't work, right? So I don't know why we would say, yeah, okay, like that's what we want. We want it to continue not working.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like these negotiations are fraught, and it's there's a lot about money and about role and what you want to do and where you see yourself. And I'm guessing that there just grew to be too many disparities between what he wanted and what we were expecting, and that's why he's walking.
So with that, I think this was a good session for all of us. Kind of acquainted to therapy. Kind of needed this all moment. We got it out. There's still plenty of things to go. It's the off season, y'all. We'll be back probably once we get. What do you think, Golf? When we get an idea of what this initial, who's returning, who's gone, etc., and we can now that we know, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's probably hey, we'll see you when we got something to talk about, yo. And that might be a week, it might be a month, I don't know. We'll see.
Adam, how happy are you now that it's break time?
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool.
He's the hardest working man in sport world. You trying to say that
City Football Club?
Are you trying to say that Adam is ready for a break? Man, who are you talking about?
Start the stuff again.
Yeah, no brakes, all gas.
He actually stopped doing football picks on the Majors Detroit site because he wanted to cut something out. Jaime was heartbroken.
Well, Jaime will
I would.
I wouldn't be if I were Jaime, because his football picks weren't very good. So
it's just one less person to get owned by.
sorry, Jaime.
I would go for fuck, bro.
Where
we say this in love, with love.
Yeah, with love.
Mostly.
Where can we find everybody, Garrett?
We can find everybody. Well, first off, you can find the man, the myth, the legend, the man behind the name of this show, Sean Spence, on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you call it, Skilled-Scaping. Also, skilledschaping@gmail.com for those that like the emails. Patreon, Words About Shapes, $3 a month. Still thinking you should add 69 cents to that, bro. All the best stuff.
Yeah, if you want to see me in person, I appear Monday through Thursday at the Domino's on Perry Road in Grand Blanc. If you want to come in and just talk football, I will probably have to ignore you for most of the time because I'm usually pretty busy.
But yeah, and then everything for there. You can find Adam, TMSNX Adam, as well as being a regular writer also too on the Majors Detroit. We'll also be doing some other Detroit sports content on there too for Detroit City Sportscast and the gang. You can find myself Twitter, Instagram, Discord. Maybe I'll get a Blue Sky. I don't fucking know yet. That's at GM Comats. Channel 451, 451 DET on Twitter. Channel 451 on YouTube. Latest episode of Total Talk. If not out now, soon. Detroit.themajorsports.com. Tomorrow? Cool. So Detroit.themajorsports.com for all of your Detroit sports content. We will be hitting it hard and heavy again soon with Lions, Red Wings, Pistons content. Maybe some Tiger stuff too in the meantime. But for Adam Hernandez, Sean Spence, myself, Garrett Comments, thank you all for checking out another episode of Make City Make Spence. We will get through all of this Detroit City life together. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.